Once again, thanks for joining us this evening. We have some wonderful accomplishments that we want to celebrate this evening. We're going to hear from some wonderful speakers, and this is always a wonderful, wonderful event to take part in. Welcome to the 2007 CEO Roundtable Discussion and Awards Ceremony. I'm Mark Hayes, co-host of Good Day Atlanta on Fox 5.
And I'm Suchita Badlamani. I get to sit next to this guy every morning, which is always interesting. You can watch us weekday mornings from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., Fox 5 Morning News and Good Day Atlanta. But we are so excited to be back here for our second year as the co-host for this wonderful event and to support the efforts of the Economic Empowerment Initiative, also known as EEI, and to hang out with our dear friend Samuel.
And now we want to introduce the CEO Roundtable participants and bring them up on stage. First of all, this evening we have Pete Kite, founder, chairman, and CEO of Check Free Corporation, which provides financial, electronic commerce services and products with a focus on electronic billing and payment around the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pete Kite.
Next, it is my privilege to introduce to you the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of the Roberts Companies, which is comprised of more than a dozen companies ranging from publishing, telecommunication, real estate development, and aviation. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to a fellow St. Louisan, Mr. Michael Roberts.
And next we have Maria Saporta, business columnist for the AJC. Maria is a past president of the Atlanta Press Club and continues to serve on its board of directors. Maria has also served as the moderator for this discussion the past 4 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria Saporta.
Tonight, I hope that we have an opportunity to learn a lot, get to know more about the two men here on my left, have lessons that we can actually take home and apply to our own lives, and most importantly, I hope we have some fun. Take us back to how you grew up. What was your home environment? You know, where did you come from? What was your base? We'll start with Michael Roberts.
Thank you. And I want to thank you and everyone who made this event what it is. It's very impressive. I've been to many events, and to know that we are going to impact young people this evening is one of the most rewarding considerations that anyone in business can have, and I thank everyone for that. By way of background, my father was a World War II veteran. He went through the World War II war, came home and realized that as an African American, there was very few places for him to live next to the men that he fought with or participated in the war with. I was born a few years later, just before the Korean conflict. And I think because my mother was very pregnant at the time, he didn't have to go there. What we found, what I've been told is that, we did all the things that a good American is supposed to do. My mother raised us, my dad came back, and for an African American, a good job was working at the U.S. Post Office, where he served for 39 years. And we weren't rich people, we weren't poor people, we just never had any money. And I think a few people in this audience know what that's like. But we did prosper, and eventually, at the age of 10, we moved into a neighborhood in North St. Louis. And it was an old Victory Garden, and the developer built 14 homes, ranch homes, very nice, in a fairly middle-class community, but it was the nicest property there. But interestingly enough, they only sold to black folks. And when I went to my elementary school and transferred in there, about 99% of the students were white. by the time I graduated a few years later, 99% were black. And what I experienced in my neighborhood was every day watching for sale signs go up all over the community, because developers were going around saying, hey, you know, black folks now live in your neighborhood. And as a result, what I experienced firsthand, didn't know it at the time, but that was blockbusting. And then we noticed that the migration of African Americans from downtown core areas was planned and placed specifically. I think that happened all over America. It was a major indirect conspiracy to place African Americans into one area and keep them there.
Urban renewal became urban or black removal.
That's correct. We use other words, but that's right. But
you can share, right? He can just talk straight, right?
I just did.
Pete, take us back to your roots.
Very different fathers, but they went to the same economic class, because I got paid the same dollar from my dad for cutting the grass, and I got paid $5 from the lady down the street, except right. My dad missed the part about getting the gas lawnmower. I still had to push that thing. So I grew up just in the middle of the Midwest in Ohio, classic post-war family, 5 kids. I was second to last. Biggest issue, I think, for me in terms of growing up, we were just sort of middle class, nothing particularly special. The biggest thing that stands out with me was that I think really provided the background for having the kind of independence that you need to start a business, and I think helped develop some leadership. Is that my earliest recollection of myself and my father was me as a very little kid picking myself back up after getting smacked across the room and realizing that these two people didn't like each other. I mean, my dad just, the way I grew up, which it turns out I found out later, they call attention deficit disorder, ADD, but it was just oil and water. And so my process in growing up was, I always understood from the earliest that anything I wanted to do, I was going to have to do on my own. Because even though I was in the middle of this middle class family, middle of the Midwest, my life, in fact, was certainly very easy compared to the situation Mike was describing. My issue was inside my house, I was on my own. And mostly I just wanted to try to stay out of reach of the rather large arc he had with the back of his hand. And the issue at the end of the day wasn't, woe is me, this is really bad, feel sorry for me. It was an issue of, look, this is the way it is. This is the way I'm growing up, and how are you going to live with it? And what I ended up simply doing was just always determined to try to be in as much control of my environment, to control as much of my destiny as I could. Never really expected that I was going to get something from somebody else. I understood from early on, my pre-EEI education was, if you want something, you better have the money to pay for it. And if you want to attain something, you better have the willingness and the discipline to go learn how to put in the work and practice for it so that you can get it. And for me, I think it was, in the end, looking back, it was an interesting process, because as my father got older, retired, and then began to get old, and his memory would fade, and as Check Free got to be more and more successful, there were these periods where I'd take my kids to visit him, and he'd talk about, isn't it great, and I'm really glad I was able to provide you with the kind of upbringing that helped. That, he had completely forgotten we didn't get along. I can assure you that your dad doesn't want money. You're paying him back every day you allow him to come into your office and, as you know, see what it is.